AITA for refusing to help my mom after she celebrated my ex having a baby with my brother? 5 years ago, just about a month shy of my 30th birthday, I discovered that my fiancée was having an affair with my own brother. The only reason they came clean was because she was pregnant and intended to keep the baby. My ex-fiancée, Jessica, 30, and my brother, Ryan, 33, had apparently been involved ever since Jessica and I got engaged. We had been a couple since our freshman year of college, so getting engaged felt like the natural next step after being together for so long. But right after we got engaged, she made the choice to betray me with my brother. It all came out when, a few days after I proposed, my brother cornered her and confessed that he'd always had feelings for her. He claimed he had to say something before she got married, because after that, the door would be closed forever. That confession apparently sparked something in her, and she suddenly realized she was developing feelings for him, too. It turns out he had been subtly flirting with her at family barbecues and holiday gatherings behind my back for a while, but she hadn't been sure of his intentions, which is why she stayed with me. I learned all of this 5 years ago, only a few months before our wedding was scheduled. They sat me down with my parents to announce that they planned to be a couple and that Jessica could no longer marry me because she was in love with Ryan and they were expecting a child. That day, I felt a level of disgust I didn't know was possible. I refused to believe it. I told Jessica I wanted her to come home with me so we could work through this and she could end whatever this thing with Ryan was. But my mother stepped in and made it crystal clear that wasn't going to happen. She stated that Ryan and Jessica were going to be together, and I just needed to accept it because it was their decision. I was floored that my own mother would endorse something like that. My dad at least had the decency to look ashamed and tried to offer some comfort, but my mom was shameless in her support for them. She even had the audacity to tell me that if I had an issue with it, I needed to keep it to myself. Jessica was pregnant, and I had no right to cause her any stress in her delicate condition. My mother was completely swept up in the idea of finally having a grandchild, so she had little to no regard for what I was going through. She even argued with me, trying to justify their actions. After that disastrous confrontation, Jessica moved into my parents' house because her own parents wanted nothing to do with her after she told them the truth. We obviously had to cancel the wedding. My parents covered the cancellation fees for the venue and vendors, so at least I didn't have to deal with the financial fallout. However, I was effectively pushed out of the family because I refused to speak to any of them. For 5 years, there was absolute silence. The only person who made any attempt to reach out was my dad, but I ignored his calls and emails. After they made their choice, I cut all ties. It took me a very long time to process what happened. Jessica and I had built a life together over many years. I genuinely loved her, and it required a lot of therapy to even begin to move past the betrayal. Even now, I wouldn't say I'm completely over it, but I've learned to manage the feelings. The rest of my extended family, my aunts, uncles, and cousins, stayed in touch, and it was through them that I learned she had a son with my brother. About a month after the baby was born, a paternity test confirmed Ryan was the father, not me. So, there was no reason for them to contact me after that. They eventually got married and have been together for the last 5 years. I had assumed everything was going fine for them, but about a week ago, my mom called me out of the blue. It was a shock, especially since she had been the biggest, most obsessive supporter of Jessica and Ryan's relationship. Purely out of curiosity, I decided to call her back after she sent a follow-up email saying she needed to talk to me urgently. When I called, she was sobbing as she delivered some terrible news. My brother had been in a very serious accident. It was a hit and run, and the impact had left him in a coma. The doctors had no idea when, or if, he would wake up. The accident had happened the week before, and just 3 days prior, doctors said his condition was very critical. That was the moment my mother chose to call me. At first, I thought she was asking me to come to the hospital and be there for the family, which I would have been willing to do. Despite everything, that would have been a reasonable request in a crisis. I do not want to be the kind of person who turns their back on someone in such a terrible state. But then, my mother took the conversation in a completely different direction. She told me she wanted me to be there for Jessica and my nephew. I didn't understand what she meant. Then she spelled it out. She expected me to take my brother's place. When I asked her to clarify what she was talking about, she said that with Ryan out of the picture, I needed to step up and be there for Jessica and her son in every respect. She wasn't just talking about financial help. She genuinely expected me to move in with them and take care of them. She said she would take them in herself, but she was getting older and couldn't handle the work of caring for everyone. That's why she was calling, and she expected me to make a decision right then and there because, in her words, time was of the essence. I completely lost my temper. She hadn't spoken a word to me in 5 years, and the first time she does, she drops this insane demand on me. I could understand that Jessica and her child were in a vulnerable position and needed support, but that support should come from her own family, not from the person she betrayed, who never even received a genuine apology. I immediately told my mom that I would do no such thing and that it was delusional to think I would ever agree to that. She started arguing with me, but I had no patience for it. I was already angry, and I wasn't going to let her ruin my day any further. I just hung up and blocked her number again. I tried to go about my day, but I couldn't stop thinking about what Ryan and Jessica were going through, and I did feel a pang of sympathy for them. But there was no way I was going to do what my mother asked and step into my brother's life. It was just bizarre. He was still alive. She was already acting like he was gone. Feeling completely unsure, I decided to call my dad later that day, thinking he might be more rational. It was awkward talking to him after 5 years of silence. After a bit of small talk, I asked him how Ryan was doing, and he confirmed that things weren't looking good. Then I told him about the conversation I'd had with my mom, hoping for a dose of sanity. Instead, he told me that my mom was right to expect this from me. I was shocked. My dad had always been the more level-headed one. When I asked if he was serious, he said yes. He reminded me that Jessica and I had a history and that I was still part of the family, no matter what had happened over the last 5 years. He said that at the end of the day, I am family, and if they can count on anyone, it should be me. He concluded by saying my mother's expectations were not unreasonable. That conversation completely blindsided me. Right now, I honestly don't know what to do. For the past week, I've avoided calls from all my relatives because I'm afraid someone will bring it up and I'll have to defend my decision. I also feel a little bit like the villain here for refusing to help my family when I know they need support, at least emotionally. I know what my mom is asking is strange and unfair, but at the same time, I feel guilty for rejecting it so bluntly. I haven't even gone to the hospital to see my brother because the whole situation feels so toxic. I haven't been able to talk to my friends about it either, because it's just so deeply personal. They know the basic story of what happened when the wedding was canceled, but this is a whole other level of weird. That's why I'm posting this here now, because I need objective opinions. My friends and family will all be biased one way or another. I really need some advice, because I feel like I'm going to lose my mind if I don't figure this out soon. It feels like I'm being dragged back into that dark period of my life right after I found out about the affair, where I was constantly obsessing over Jessica and Ryan. It took me so long to climb out of that hole, and I refuse to go back. So please, anyone, tell me what you think, no matter how harsh. Am I the bad guy for refusing to see my family and help them after my brother's accident? Update 1. Hi everyone. I've decided not to go see my family for now. It's just too much for me to handle at the moment. I didn't even realize how much my anxiety had spiked over the past week because of what my parents were saying, but I'm back on my medication and trying to manage it. So many of you showed love and support in the comments and in my private messages, letting me know I'm not alone, and I appreciate that more than you know. Thank you so much. I also opened up to a couple of my close friends about what's happening. I don't think I can get through this by myself, and they told me I can talk to them anytime I need to vent. They agreed that my decision to stay away for now is the right one. They said I have to put my own well-being first, regardless of what's happening in other people's lives. After all, Ryan and my family have always put themselves first, so it's time I did the same. Honestly, I don't think I owe them my emotional support either. They have each other. They can figure it out. I was the one who had absolutely no one from my immediate family when my life fell apart. My own parents turned on me and chose my brother, even though he was the one who was clearly in the wrong. But that's all in the past, and I'm trying to move on. I won't be able to do that if I get dragged back into their drama. So, I've blocked all of them again, and I'm sticking to my decision of no contact. I am truly sorry about what happened to my brother, and I genuinely hope he recovers. No matter what he did, I can't be the kind of person who wishes harm on someone. I hope things work out for them, but I am out. I'm going to focus on my own mental health now. I'm considering going back to therapy because of how this has affected me. My parents' words brought up so many old feelings, and I don't think I'm handling it as well as I thought. It's time to take care of myself. Update 2. I heard from a few relatives that my brother's condition is still critical, with no signs of improvement. It's been almost 2 weeks, and he's still in the hospital. It's a really tough time for the family, and I feel sad for them, but there's not much I can do. Everyone who knows my family has visited the hospital at least once to offer their support, except for me. I would have gone, but I also found out from my relatives that my parents are slandering me to everyone who visits. They're painting me as the villain. Apparently, they're telling people they begged me to come be there for the family, but I refused. They've accused me of saying things like it was karma for the betrayal 5 years ago, and that my brother deserved what happened to him. Obviously, I never said anything of the sort. Some of my relatives reached out to me to see if it was true, because it didn't sound like me at all. I told them it was a complete lie and that my parents were likely just trying to get a reaction out of me, because that's the kind of thing they do. I was so disappointed that they would stoop that low and invent stories just to make me look bad, especially after they already ruined my life once. I'm lucky my relatives trusted me enough to ask me directly. If they had just believed my parents, I think my entire extended family would have cut me off. For the past 5 years, my aunts, uncles, and cousins have been there for me even when my parents weren't. I didn't want to lose them, and I guess my parents couldn't stand that, so they tried to ruin that for me, too. I just don't understand their hatred for me. Ryan and I were never especially close, and my parents always favored him. But this just feels cruel and unnecessary. Update 3. So, I posted an update 2 days ago, and today, my mom decided to contact me again. I had blocked her on everything, so she had no choice but to show up at my house. When I got home from work, she was sitting on my front steps waiting. Honestly, the last thing I wanted to do after a long day was talk to her. I almost got back in my car and drove away, but she saw me, so I was stuck. I refused to let her inside my house, knowing I'd never get her to leave. So, I decided we could talk on the front lawn. That turned out to be a terrible idea, because she ended up screaming at me and drawing the attention of my neighbors. The conversation started out civil enough. She made some small talk, and I replied politely. But I couldn't hold back, and I asked her why she was spreading lies about me to make me look like a monster. I told her it wasn't fair. I had never wished any harm on them, even after how they treated me. I just wanted to move on with my life, but they were making it impossible. All these feelings I had been suppressing just came pouring out. I told her that after everything that had happened, it was hard for me to even consider them family because they had never treated me like a son. I was just so disappointed in their behavior. I said whatever she had to say could wait, because I had just gotten home and didn't have the emotional energy for a fight. She was listening calmly until that point, but when I said I didn't want to talk right then, she snapped. She got furious and claimed she had only come over to apologize for the very things I was talking about. She said that she and my dad had talked it over. They had been upset by my initial refusal to support the family or visit my brother, but they supposedly realized they hadn't treated me well over the past 5 years and that I was still hurt, which was why I was staying away. She claimed she came to try and work things out because the family needed to stick together. But because I told her I didn't want to talk at that moment, she decided to just yell at me instead. She told me I should be grateful to even have a family. She said that after my reaction to my brother's accident, she had been planning to cut me off for good and make sure the rest of the family did too. I had no idea what she was talking about. She explained that she felt my reaction on the phone wasn't sad enough when I heard the news. I don't know what she expected from me. She thought I should have shown more emotion, but I just sounded indifferent. Of course, news like that affected me. I was devastated, despite our history. Maybe it didn't come across on the phone because she couldn't see my face, but her reasoning was completely illogical. She even brought up the fact that I wasn't there for Jessica and my nephew and that I hadn't taken responsibility for them. She was just making things up again to justify her behavior. I truly think my parents are losing their minds. After she started screaming, I was done. I just walked to my front door and told her to leave. As I went inside, she was still yelling. She tried to follow me in, but I shut the door in her face and told her to leave my property because I was done talking. She argued, but I told her I would call the police. That finally got her to leave, but not before she screamed that I would suffer the consequences for this. I don't know what that means, and I don't care to find out. I just want some peace. Update 4. Hello. It's been 26 days since the accident. My family finally received some good news today. Of course, they didn't tell me directly. I heard it from my cousins. My brother is finally showing signs of improvement. He's out of the coma and is becoming more responsive, which is a very good sign. I truly hope he continues to recover, because this past month has been incredibly stressful for everyone, including me, even though I've been cut off from the family for a long time. The way my parents have been treating me these past 26 days has shown me just how unhinged they are. I think they were just taking all their stress and anger out on me. After that last encounter with my mom, I didn't hear from her for a few days. Then my dad called to yell at me instead. He used a different number, so I didn't know it was him. When I answered, he started screaming almost immediately, so I didn't even have a chance to hang up. He was also sneaky about it. Instead of calling at a reasonable hour, he called me at 5 in the morning, knowing I'd be asleep and groggy. A few days after my mom's visit, my phone rang at 5 a.m. After the fourth call, I finally answered. It was my dad, and he immediately laid into me, calling me ungrateful and saying he wished I had never been born. He said he would make sure the rest of the family never spoke to me again because I was a terrible person for not even visiting my brother in the hospital while he was suffering and for abandoning the family. After he ranted for nearly 5 minutes, he hung up on me. By the time I had processed what was happening, the call was over and he had blocked the number. It wasn't pleasant at the time, but looking back, it's almost comical. My parents are so desperate to make me the bad guy that they're resorting to these extreme tactics. As I said, I think they just needed someone to unload on, and I was the designated target as always. But it doesn't matter. My dad didn't succeed in turning the rest of the family against me. They know the history, and they know I'm not the one to blame. Now that my brother's condition is improving, I just hope they'll finally leave me alone and focus on him. Update 5. It's very strange to be back here after almost 3 years. So much has happened since then, mostly for the better. I now live in Germany for my job. I've been here for a year and a half. I also started dating someone. My girlfriend and I have been together for 8 months, and things are going really well. For the last 3 years, I have had no contact with my parents, which has been a blessing. I have, however, kept in touch with my other relatives, the ones who have been kind to me. My brother is doing perfectly fine now. He survived the accident, and although his recovery was long, he's back to normal. Jessica actually reached out to me after Ryan started to recover. She wanted to talk and apologize for everything that happened in the past. I simply told her that at this point, an apology wasn't necessary. She contacted me after she heard I was moving to Germany for work and came to see me to apologize on behalf of both herself and my brother. She said Ryan was too embarrassed to face me after everything that had happened 8 years ago. But honestly, none of it mattered to me anymore. I told her I forgave them. And it was true. I really didn't care. I was moving on with my life, toward much better things. Since I've been here, and with my parents out of my life, I have been truly happy. I wouldn't have it any other way. Now that everyone is caught up, I'm going to get back to my life. Thank you so much to everyone who showed me so much support and concern when I was posting here, and who continued to check in even after I stopped. Update 6. I'm only updating because a few people wanted to know a little more about my life in Germany. I was offered a position here and I took it because I desperately needed a change of scenery. The move has been incredibly good for me. As I said, I met someone wonderful, so it turned out to be the best decision I could have made. I also forgot to mention one last thing. My brother eventually found out that while he was in a coma, my parents had offered me up as his replacement. To say the relationship between my brother and them is now strained would be an understatement. Jessica told me this. She also mentioned that Ryan is currently not allowing them to see their grandchild. Even Jessica said she had no idea they had made that offer to me. And that's how it all ended. Comment. What really stands out to me in stories like these is the immense strength it takes to choose yourself. Setting boundaries isn't about punishing others. It's about protecting your own peace. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from situations that constantly demand you to sacrifice your well-being. You can have compassion for people from a distance without letting their chaos become your own. Healing is not about forgetting what happened, but rather about refusing to let it define your future. We are all responsible for building a life where we feel safe and respected. That peace you're looking for often lies on the other side of a very difficult decision. Remember to be kind to yourself through that process, because it's not an easy journey. Your well-being is non-negotiable, and it's okay to make it your priority. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.